name's Joel Garza. I'm a high school English teacher at Green Hill School in Addison, Texas, and I'm here to celebrate the work that my juniors did in a course called Narrative Nonfiction. If you want to know about narrative nonfiction, just look at that motto there. It's a course in which we read and write the book of experience rather than reading and writing about texts outside there. We read and write the book of experience. And in this case, we are grounding a unit in story and in family, in space and in place. At the beginning of the unit, I asked them, what is the true north of your emotional compass? What is the direction that your family compass points in? What is the direction in which your artistic compass points? Take me there. This is some of the scholarly and interpersonal context. We have scholars that we read to ground what we mean by space and place. And we also just get onto Google Maps and show one another, this is my grandparents' village. This is the hill in the camp where I spend some of my summers. This is the breakfast place that my parents and I love. There is freedom and there are parameters. And this unit wound up being a success because of this balance here. It wound up being a success also, maybe primarily, because of this scholar, Yifu Tuan, who inspired me, who outlines a difference between space, which is physical navigation where we don't pause, and place where we pause and where we make and shape meaning. There were readings that my students did to ground their understanding, that recognizing that we can glean meaning if we just pause and think long enough, if we read the book of our experience. The work of Yifu Tuan recognizes that place and home can be complicated, that we can often feel an alien in the places that we call home. And this writing process is a chance to make sense of those complicated feelings, to do the kind of critical reading that too many courses limit to canonical texts rather than the text of our lives. The mentor texts that I used were great examples of finding meaning where you are, of looking to your own physical spaces, to building your own shape, narrating on your own terms. These essayists, most of them poets, really gave my students a new understanding of the shape of a narrative, that it doesn't have to be a kind of heroic confrontation of a conflict that rises to a climax and resolves with some falling action, but that instead you might have a story shape that was an inventory. What are the items on the shelves in that place? What are the pieces of athletic equipment that I put on when I'm there? You can have a different shape that is a kind of then and now, back and forth, a split screen story. This is the space as I understood it there. Upon reflection, these are the things that were impacting me deeply, even though I'm only now intellectualizing its impact. And finally, this is a place that I return to over and over again. How can I get deeper and deeper and narrower, so that I am no longer jet skiing the surface of that place, but I am dropping anchor and with you, for you, my reader, doing a deep dive in what that place can mean for me and what similar spaces might mean in your life. Midway through my students writing about a ranch that their family visits, the village in Gujarat where they are from, midway through, I had to nudge them away from mere physical detail. I had to remind them, you're not describing this place for the visually impaired. You are digging deep. You are seeing you and your people there, not just the physical details. This thing needs to be not just factual, but true, personally true. Some ways that I walked them into a deeper engagement midway through their drafting and thinking about these places were these four questions. What if in that place you had made a different choice? What if this place has a life all its own when you're not there? What happens when you are there? What happens when your grandparents are there alone? What if this place has or had a different ending for you? Imagine that you're never able to go back there again. Imagine that place gets sold or renovated. And finally, what if we take a different approach? What if we're able to, as a writing exercise, imagine ourselves as a character, not merely as the narrator? What if this was a story about he or she or they rather than you? Because these are deeply personal stories, it helps to drive them to see their authenticity through the lens of somebody that knows you well in the classroom. So our course, and this unit in particular, flourished because we sat down next to each other and we read through each other's stories with curiosity, with generosity. This was not um, a haphazard ad hoc peer review where you just said good job. I was inspired by the Academy Award nominations, and I challenged them to think, what do you see? What do you hear? In what ways is this place adapted through the writing of this particular friend of yours? In what ways does this writer edit and juxtapose in powerful ways? The stories that came out of this I've already hinted at. It's difficult to talk about the successes without remembering some of these students, without remembering the story of their last competitive gymnastics practice there, without remembering all of those episodes in these vignette-driven stories about the stage, without remembering walking out of that family home, without remembering one of my favorites is a young man saying, in India, young people, they've got motorcycles. Like, I'm going to have a different kind of tone and pace because I know this village best on a motorcycle. Others leaned into grandparents, their gratitude for what they have as a religious tradition, their gratitude for what that grandparent did with their hands in their shop. This is a very quick walk through this unit where my students took us on an emotional and personal journey. I would love to talk to you more about this unit. The resources are linked at that bit.ly. My email is there.